There's probably nothing more in business right now that's more disruptive than AI, ChatGPT, and Bard. And who better than to discuss how to be anticipatory and how to react in the face of change and disruption than my friend and colleague, Dan Burrus. Now, on the screen, it says Daniel, but Dan and I have known each other for 30 years. We're in Speakers Roundtable together. We're Hall of Fame keynote speakers, and we speak and train in organizations all over the globe. Dan, welcome to Fordify Live. We are live right now on LinkedIn and Facebook and YouTube and a bunch of other platforms. But anyway, let's get right into it. Disruption. Tell me, and you're a futurist, what do you see happening with business today and the challenges they're facing?
Well, first of all, let me just hit on that word disruption. Most people see disruption as negative. Why? Because it happens to you and now you got to react. That's why so many people are trying to be agile. Remember, agility came from sports. It's reacting as quickly as you can to a disruption after it disrupts, reacting as quickly as you can to a problem after it occurs. And that's one side of the strategy coin. What I teach is the other side, how to anticipate disruptions before they disrupt so that disruptions becomes a choice, how to anticipate problems before they happen so that you can pre-solve them. And therein lies your question. And that is when ChatGPT was released to the world by OpenAI, they did it not in a responsible way at all. Underline, underline, underline. And remember, Ford, for our listeners out there, I'm an advisor to the Joint Chiefs, the DoD, DARPA on AI and cyber. I know things I can't even tell you right now, and I've been doing it for a long time. So with that credibility, let me just say that what should have been done is instead of releasing it to the world instantly, they should have had a test group. They should have anticipated problems before they happened and done some pre-solving. Those were actually very easy to do. But by releasing it to the world, of course, as you and I both know, in 2 months, it grew to 100 million users, fastest growing software in the world. Well, yeah, it was free. It was AI, and you could do anything with it, including if I'm a hacker, hey, I could create code without even having to be a coder. I could take your voice, by the way, for 3 seconds of your voice, and I could have you make a phone call to your mom saying, or your brother or somebody else saying, I'm out of money and I need it, and it would sound like you. I mean, whoa, the negative side of this is huge, but so is the positive side. My point is, I don't want to just be agile about that, man. I need to be anticipatory. So the genie is out. And I know you've been talking about this and doing a good job on it, Ford. Congratulations on that. And people need to hear it. But absolutely. But we have to be careful of what we're sharing and what we're doing. For example, just recently, we've had Samsung. Some of the guys put some code in there to test it. And it was proprietary code to Samsung. And now the world knows it, including AI. Oh, good. We learned it. Well, be careful. So be careful. And I think the best way to think about it as you experiment with it is it's your first draft electronic assistant.
Yeah, I've been talking about treating it like an intern.
Not your final draft.
Yeah. But let's go into the challenges that face organizations. We this episode, if you're watching this now, we're on Fordify Live. This is also part of the Business Growth podcast on all your favorite podcast shows. But it's not just about AI. I want to talk more about the philosophy because you're really an expert at the future. You've had a famous newsletter for years called Know What's Next. And, you're brought into organizations. I mean, I first met you with Techno Trends in the early 90s when you wrote that book, and you've been a futurist for years. So beyond this, organizations right now are dealing with overwhelming change and disruption in a lot of different areas, not just with AI and ChatGPT and Bard and all the other ones that are out there, but they're dealing with employee issues, finance issues, supply chain issues, staffing challenges, competition in the market. We've got, if they're a retail business, look what's going on in California and Portland, where 22 brands, big brands, have already moved out of California, and you're in California. So I want to talk holistically around the challenges that a leader, an executive, or a business owner, a franchise brand, how can they be better prepared to be agile and to be prepared, other than your best-selling books, which obviously you guys can get on Amazon. I want to say this for the listeners, Burrus.com, BURRUS.com. So if you're listening to this, Daniel Burrus, you can check him out on LinkedIn. But anyway, so going back to the question, let's talk holistically, or if that's the correct word, on organizations today. They're dealing with all this frustration and disruption. They're dealing with staffing challenges. Where do they start to help identify and take action?
Well, crisis management isn't going to help because it's going to get more so. As a matter of fact, if you're moving exponentially fast in the wrong direction, you'll get into trouble exponentially faster. But how do we know? Why do we know that direction? And that's where the methodology that I've come up with over 40 years of research and is being used widely is a way to find certainty in an uncertain world. And as I mentioned before, disruption. Two types. There's disruption that happens to you. Now you've got to crisis manage, put out fires, as you were given examples of. But I want all of our listeners to become positive disruptors, creating the disruptions that need to happen to elevate your relevancy, because you're either going to be more relevant or less relevant. There is no middle. And to accelerate growth and innovation. And now, how do you do that when there's so much changes? Find certainty. Now, first of all, I like uncertainty. Nothing better than a confused customer. I love that. It opens the door to a sale. But what's the ultimate closing tool? Well, certainty. You know, if I'm not certain, what'll I say? Well, Ford, I'll get back to you. What'll I say? I got to do a little bit more research on that. I'm not going to write a big check. I'm not going to say yes. But if I have certainty, you know what? I have the confidence to make a bold move. If I am an employee and the CEO is saying we need to do this because I think that's where we need to go, the word I think implies, yeah, well, maybe that's what he thinks. But if he is saying, here's some future facts. And by the way, if you think this isn't a future fact, raise your hand. I'd like to hear it so we can discuss it. In sharing some future facts, in other words, some certainties, and here's why we're doing it. And if I'm gone tomorrow, the future facts remain. All of a sudden, you have people embracing it. So the center of all of that, Ford, is all trends. Here's something I have to teach everyone because I want you to be anticipatory, not just reactionary. All trends fall into one of two categories. They're either a hard trend based on a future fact that will happen. By the way, that means it can't be changed. Hard trend, future fact that will happen. That's what lets you see disruptions before it disrupts and problems before you have them so you can pre-solve them. The other kind of trend is a soft trend, and that's based on an assumption that may or may not be true. And by the way, I love them both. What do I love about a soft trend? You don't like it, you can change it. Well, there's a lot of stuff I'd like to change right now, but I got to know what I can do. And then again, a hard trend. So the rapid increase in the cost of healthcare in the United States. It's been going up for over a decade. By the way, that's a trend. Now, most people think that's a hard trend. No, actually, most people think it's a soft trend. They do. They think it's unstoppable. That's why all of our strategies and innovations are around how to pay for the mess the baby boomers will create as they get older. But if we realize, actually, that's a soft trend, don't like it, you can change it. We could put blockchain, for example, into healthcare to bring transparency and, by the way, increase trust and security. You didn't know that aspirin in the hospital actually cost $25. If you knew that, you'd have your spouse bring it. You didn't know that artificial knee, because you played so much tennis or rode on gravel on a bicycle so much,
yes,
that artificial knee actually can vary in price by 500%. You didn't know that. No wonder it's so high. By the way, there is a blockchain for healthcare that's got $100 million in first round funding. The point I'm making is, soft trends, don't like them, you can change it. Hard trends lets you see with confidence and certainty, it lets you see the future before it happens. It gives you a huge example. By the way, you mentioned techno trends back in 1993. If you go back and look at that copy of that book you bought, there's a section called in bold, Blockbuster is busted. Read under it. You'll see a description of Netflix. Now, again, did I know they would call it Netflix? No, you got to leave out the parts you can be wrong about.
Right.
You'll also see ultra intelligent electronic agents. By the way, we started our program out today talking about those.
Yep.
Now, instead of me saying, wow, Daniel Burrus is a smart guy, what I'm saying is, no, I've got a methodology you can learn. You can do this because if you are not becoming more anticipatory and you stay, regardless of the size of your company, as a crisis manager, you are not going to be a happy camper in the future. Matter of fact, I'm dedicating everything I'm doing to getting more people to be anticipatory. If we're not anticipating predictable problems and pre-solving them, you and I are not going to be happy human campers on this planet.
That is so true. I mean, for me, going back to the healthcare, I've got a dozen employees here, and we just did the reports last week, and it's costing me almost $50,000 a year for a dozen employees for just my part of it. And I mean, so some of the people listening to this might think, well, that's nothing. You know, our health insurance is huge. Yeah. I mean, I've had companies where I had 140 employees. I don't want 140. I've got a dozen staff, and that's, 11 more than I want sometimes. Okay. Well, my team's going to listen to this and I'm going to be screwed. But the point of making is I really truly believed about being anticipatory. I do believe in the hard trends and soft trends. I certainly get confused a lot on which one's which, but I do know like it's the best thing. I'm going to give the analogy that I heard a long time ago when it talks about finances. So you hire an accounting person to do transactions. You hire a financial person to interpret those. And then that financial person or that advisor should help you forecast the future. So accounting is like looking out the rear view mirror, and finance is looking out the windshield, right? And so I don't know if that analogy works with being anticipatory, but that's what I'm thinking of.
Perfectly. As a matter of fact, knowing you are a true sales guru, let me just put it into a little perspective here. You got sales and marketing. We usually say them in one big word, sales and marketing, but they're way different. Now, which one is more future focused and which one is more present focused? Well, sales is present focused. It's about today. It's about the sale today. Marketing is about the future, positioning. Marketing is about positioning. So when we have them working together, there's a cultural mismatch because one is in the present state, one is in the future state.
True.
So if we did a little test of our organization to see where is the past, where's the present, where's the future. By the way, in my learning system and my book, Anticipatory Organization, I call this a time travel audit. And I want to know where my people are in time. So that because if I'm a future-oriented guy, which I am, and I'm talking to somebody who is past-oriented, their eyes will glass over and I'll be too far out for them.
Yes.
But if I jump into their time zone with them and walk them into the future with permission, I can change them like that. And I've done that with people that I've been told are, here's a CEO, he's old, he's got great wisdom, but he won't change. He's still got a flip phone. What are we going to do with this guy? And I went over and just before speaking, this was recently, went over and talked to him. And I said, you got any grandkids? And he said, oh, yeah. And I said, they got smartphones? Oh, yeah. Well, did you know? And I started giving him some things he could do with his kids. By the way, he got a smartphone, boom, like that. It was, by the way, where did I go? Well, I went to the heart. You change people with the heart. You don't change it with statistics. So that, which is maybe sales 101. But the point is, you can change how people think without telling them what to think by giving them those future facts. One other thing that you mentioned, Ford, let me help you and everyone.
Sure. You
said, sometimes I can't tell if it's a hard trend or a soft trend. So let me give you a very short, teeny little advanced class on it.
Go for it.
I'm going to state a trend, and then I'm going to help you to see how to find out what it is. So here's the statement. A lot of people in our organizations will be retiring, and they're going to be taking their knowledge and wisdom with them. Now, anytime, here's advanced lesson. Anytime there's the word and or a comma, you've got two trends in that statement. One is hard and one is soft, usually led by a hard trend. For example, the one I gave you. A lot of people in an organization will be retiring. Yeah, hard trend. And they're going to be taking their knowledge and wisdom with them. Well, that's soft. You could let them do that, or you could create a mentoring program. You've got a database. Do you have a knowledge base? Do you have a wisdom base? Are we capturing any of it, or are we letting it go? So, comma or the word and, you probably got two. And when you separate them out, then you can act. One other thing about hard trends and soft trends is the teacher in me. I got to share this.
Go for it.
A trend by itself is boring.
Yeah.
Now look, I've been doing this for 40 years. I'm telling you, trends are boring unless you attach an opportunity to it. The minute you attach an opportunity to a trend, it bursts into actionable life. So there are three categories of hard trends very quickly. Technology. We went from 3G to 4G to 5G. Is that it? No. Next will be 6G, followed by 7. We're putting a lot in the cloud. Well, was the cloud getting full? No. And if you don't like AI, can we just shut it down? Well, no. It's going to continue to exponentially get more powerful. The key is, so what are the problems I can anticipate because of that so I can pre-solve them? And what are the opportunities I can take and use today, whether it's AI or any of the other tools? And by the way, if they go to Burrus.com, you just scroll down just a one notch, you can download a free list of my 25 trends driving the future. And of course, generative AI and chats in there. But there's a lot more going on than just what's capturing the news today, although that's a big one.
Well, I certainly appreciate that explanation because, at the end of the day, when people come to me at Prime Concepts or they hire me to speak at their organization, they're looking at business growth. They're looking at expand their influence, build subscriber lists, increase the average transaction, get new and repeat sales, improve operations and performance. And so, trends and helping people, like you said, with that guy from the cell phone convert, for me, selling is just giving people enough information that they can make good decisions. Now, obviously, marketing is the future when you look at forecasting and creating new opportunities, and sales happens, right now, and understanding the difference. Some things will make you smarter, but they won't make you more money. So we could debate all day long on the definition of the words. But the biggest thing I would say is if you don't have the leads you want, if you don't have the performance you want, if you don't have the profit you want, then you have to take that 30,000 foot view from the sky to understand where the problems are. And, you can bring an advisor in like Dan or I to go in and strategically work with you, but it's best to have that outside perspective that isn't political. And that's one of those things that you and I do and our high-end consulting is we go into organizations that are stuck and they can't see the blind spots. They can't see the gaps. And so what we do is we help them uncover those things and bridge that gap and close that gap and shorten the sales cycle and shorten that and improve communications and operations. And that's really where a lot of companies don't. I mean, Hardee's just closed. The Hardee's store franchise closed. Bed Bath & Beyond just closed. And so here brands that were around. So my question whenever I hear something like this, did they anticipate it? No, or did they just stayed stuck in the rut like Blockbuster that, everything's now, we're not going to go back to Blockbuster. Some of the millennials are like, what's Blockbuster? They don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. But, I think that it's important to use these skills and as an action step, go to Amazon, type in Daniel Burrus, get the Anticipatory Organization. That's the most recent book, right? Yep. And the one right before that was the Flash Foresight.
Flash Foresight, How to See the Invisible, Do the Impossible. And again, they really are companion books. So
yeah,
either one will lead you to the other.
Yeah, I like Flash Foresight. That's one of the things I've had as a required reading, and I recommend organizations you should have a success library and you should put those books in it and make them available to your team. And again, you can check out Dan on LinkedIn, Dan Burrus with a US, everybody, not IS. So just when you Google it, you'll know that. I want to go back to the topic of, so now we've kind of gone full circle. We know we need to be anticipatory. We know we need to be disruptive. We need to be proactively disruptive to make sure we look at how things and not just looking out the rearview mirror. Let's go into this AI thing for just a minute. So I'm just curious. And I've been doing a lot of presentations. In fact, I've done a couple keynotes recently where they're hired me to come in full fee to go speak on this very topic. And there's two things I'm telling people in general. I mean, a lot more than two, but one is treat it like an intern. Two, the cautionary things that you can do wrong, which we're not going to make this whole topic about that. So I'm going to add a third one. The third one is, what's the future hold? And so to me, when I look at Boston Dynamics and I look at AI, and I don't have the insights that you do with the characters, I'm scared. I think this is a whole new, now we're changing the focus for those of you listening to this or watching this live. I'm derailing the conversation. I'm going completely off script. We didn't have script anyway, but I'm going to go to, this kind of scares the poop out of me just a little bit. I don't want to cuss, but because I think it's a whole new species. I think it's already got awareness, and I think it's already 100 times smarter than the smartest human. I mean, I want to use it. So for business, short term, I'm like, how can I use it? How can I be more effective? How can I leverage my team for operations, sales, marketing, communication, ideation, mapping, all types of content. But that's just like a party trick to me. To me, that seems really short-sighted, because when everybody can do that, all boats rise with the tide. Then what's it going to do to what we think is real? Like you said, 3 seconds. I thought it was longer than that, but I use websites like Murph.ai where you can.
The latest is 3 seconds. It's insane.
Yeah, and so we know the deep fakes. I think so I was on with a bunch of keynote speakers the other day, and I told them I'm happy because it's going to make in-person meetings even more valuable, because they're going to see that it's real, right? So
you hit a big one here. The thing that's at risk here is core to all relationships: trust.
Yeah.
And at some point, can I trust anything? Well, the only thing I can trust is when I am with someone,
right?
When I'm physically there, because I don't even know if you're you when I'm looking anywhere else. So we might very likely see a spin around here if it keeps developing like it is, where the only way we can really trust what's happening is to be eyeball to eyeball, face to face, kind of like we were quite a long time ago. So there may be that move back. And again,
I don't think maybe. I'm going to cut through the crap. Yeah. I don't think maybe. I think it absolutely is going to be that way, because
and it can never go back. You can only go forward, but it's going to be a new version of that. But it's still all about trust. We live in a technical world. No. We live in a human world, and it is about relationships. We can never forget that. So I think that's going to be one of the things that we're going to see. Also, I'm working on some of the big players in this field, that there's a way of labeling all of the AI stuff that's happening, whether it's text to text, which is one thing, but there are actually thousands of AI tools that I've been searching and using. So you can do text to video, text to PowerPoint, or you can take an MRI and have it go to text and have it tell you what's in the MRI. I mean, it's really wild because it's language based. So the thing is, you can inlay some things that you and I can't see, but it can flag that it's not human, or it's not been done by human, not been written by, been created. And there can be a little mark, kind of like a little watermark, that can let you know whether you're looking at something that a real human did or not. For example, I've been doing a lot of art over the decades. And,
yes, I definitely have.
At some point, I'd like to share my art, but now if I start sharing my art, none of you would think that I really did it. So, it's like, well, darn, I waited too long. Or did I? Maybe there's a way we can tag it. Well, anyway, we'll see some things like that can probably help out. Because if we actually know how it was created and where it came from, that would help. Just like right now, when you do a chat GDP thing, it doesn't give you sources and what I'd like to do is to get not a giant list of sources, so I got another Google search and I can never look at it all, but rather I'd like to be able to highlight something and find where it got that from. See, that's adding another layer of intelligence to it that would be helpful to see. Now I can decide, is it a trusted source or not?
Certainly.
So that's things we can do.
Well, certainly. We're getting close to wrapping up, but let me say a couple quick things. Today, both Dan and I have said Chat GDP a couple times. We know that it's Chat GPT. Let it go, everybody. We don't care. We know. I just want it on here because I don't want a bunch of trolls saying, you don't even know what the hell it's called. Okay, we know what it's called. Some things will make you smarter. They won't make you any more money. We get it. Like, it's Chat GPT. It's just one of those hard things phonetically to say. That's the first thing. The second thing I would say is we have control over how we decide, to be involved in this. I would recommend you don't sit on the sidelines. You get involved and you start learning about these technologies and these tools so that you can help shape the conversation and decide where to use it. However, if you're deciding, I'm going to sit on the sidelines, you're going to be left behind. The genie's out of the bottle, like we said. You're going to have to pay attention to this because it is going to impact every area of our lives, from any type of communication, relationships. There's going to be an impact. So you might as well be on the train part of the conversation. Then unless you want to move to the woods and live, off grid and cook your own food, this thing's going to affect every area of your business. And there's a lot of opportunities that are being created because of it. So there's good and there's bad with every technology, but this one is more disruptive than anything that has come
Oh, yeah.
before. So that's the main
One other
thing.
little interesting comment to tag with you on that. I've been like you, crisscrossing the country, doing a lot of speaking, a lot of C-suite CEOs. I had 1,000 CEOs just the other day in Miami. I had 10,000 2 weeks ago in New Orleans. And I just asked for a show of hands. Remember, this is CEO level.
Right.
Have you personally used it? And I'm at, normally it's about 5%. The best I ever got was about 8%. And usually those are people from the IT part of it.
Right.
That are raising their hand. And whoa, am I worried. And I'm making it an assignment that they all experience it, because you don't know if you don't go. You've got to at least get a feel for what you got here, because it's game changing. It's giant. It's huge. It's kind of like when the iPhone first came out, or web browsers first came out, or
It's all that time.
calculator first came out.
Calculators, web browsers, internet, email, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, TikTok. It's going to make all those things look like a party trick. Like I say, it's going everywhere. Now, for those of you watching, there's no upsells here, but I will say I have a product. It's video training. It's 75 minutes. If you're really interested in getting the inside secrets for this, go to profitrichresults.com/mastering-AI. Yes, it's a product, or just go to profitrichresults.com and look at the store. You'll find it. But that's a 75-minute training that I did. I sold it because everybody and their brother was doing a masterclass for free. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to charge $47. I'm going to give everybody who registers the replay, and then I'm going to sell it as a video training afterwards, because it's worth way more than that. But that way, there's no upsell. There's nothing else to buy. So if you want to check it out, you can go to profitresults.com/mastering-AI. But again, there's all kinds of resources. You definitely want to look at it and then be part of the conversation. But again, use caution. Like that's what Dan and I are telling you, is you can't
Very
just
much so.
don't you want to look further down the road. Don't just look at the driveway. You need to be looking, across town, and where's this going, and how is this going to impact my customer relations, the trust, my organization. As you know, my wife has a Pilates studio, and she's all about body mechanics and functional movement. And I told her she needs to do some disconnected retreats, where she does a retreat where there's no phones, there's no technology. And I think that we're going to see a whole new crop of industry of businesses popping up. And one more thing I want to tell you, and then I want you to respond to this. So I had a client I do a joint venture with another organization where I'm on webinars twice a month, and we pre-record them. And so one of the guys sent me an email saying, "Hey, I need you to online at 3 p.m. today." Well, I was speaking in where was I? Nashville. I'm like, I can't be on the call. There's no way I can be on the call. And so we found out that he'd actually made a mistake. And this is the same guy who had given my team a lot of crap for not promoting this thing. So I decided, I said to Devin, my marketing director, I said, Devin, go to ChatGPT and set it to explain the situation that you've got a customer or you've got a client. Here's a joint venture. We do this. But basically I said, write him a nasty gram about the importance of accountability, setting clear time schedules. So I was just kind of giving him crap, because he was wrong. And normally, it might've been us. So it wrote this really long, "Dear Darren, it's really important that you utilize 3 things. 1 is your calendar, 2 is your communication, 3 is accountability." And it wrote this really long, nasty gram. And then at the bottom of it, it was idea by Ford, prompted by Devin, written by ChatGPT. And so we tagged it and then sent it back to him. And he's like, "Great, you finally read one of my emails," because I'm a visionary and I sometimes miss those details. But it was just funny how I'm tagging stuff like that now. So if I write it, I'm saying, "Hey, this was prompted by ChatGPT, use this accordingly." And that way, at least people know. But I know a lot of people aren't, but the transparency part's there.
Well, and I publish on a weekly basis. I'm big on LinkedIn, and I've got my own blogs that are syndicated. I got a couple million readers of that, which I'm happy to report. But so far I write it all. However, I can do research, and I can see
ideation,
and ideation out of it, and can be very useful. And I think, and if I ever use a segment from it, I would put it off to the side so that you've seen that in articles where you can see that it was written by Chat as an example of what Chat can do. I think those kind of things we have to do to make sure we have credibility with the people that we share with. So remember when in that, especially in sales or anything else, you don't just be giving people information, because data and information they can get on their own. Matter
That's
of fact,
right.
if you share data and information, you're wasting their time. But if you're giving me knowledge and wisdom, if you're giving me some actionable insights, well, now that's something else. That's got high value. That's actually saving my time. I want to spend more time with you. So, we've got to make sure we're giving them the actionable insights. And when I say just we, I don't mean Ford, you and I.
Right. It's
I mean,
the listeners, everybody.
Everyone. And we've got to also check our sources. Remember, we talked about trust being such a key here. So to get people to continue to trust you, you better be looking at multiple sources of anything you're sharing to make sure you have verified that it's accurate before sharing it, to keep your reputation intact, because you know what? That's still going to be the game.
Absolutely. Well, we go live, everybody, on Fordify Wednesdays at 11 a.m. Central on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, and the Business Growth Podcast. Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing your insights with our readers. I look forward to our crisscrossing again and having dinner at that same place that we ate across from your condo. It was such a great dinner.
Hopefully not raining this time on the way back.
Yeah. It was a little different going to the airport that way. But anyway, thanks for being here today.